What's up, everyone? Marc Lobliner, CEO MTS Nutrition. How I Made My Millions, Part 3. Now, Part 1 went over childhood, all that good stuff. My father, my mother's drug problems, my father's health, all the things that made me the man I am today, that built the fabric of who I am, my work ethic, everything involved in that. Fact that I wasn't spoon-fed, that I worked for everything. I drove and drove and drove and worked and worked and worked to get everything I have. So part 2 went into my beginnings, went into college, went into my career, went into my start at Weider. Part 3, I would like to delve into Weider Publications, what I learned there, and then as I moved on to Instone, when I founded and as a founding shareholder of Sylvester Stallone's attempt at a supplement company. Now, Scivation comes later. Weider Publications was absolutely amazing. I worked with some of the greatest minds in the industry, including Dr. Jim Wright, who was a genius in and of himself, Dr. Jeff Feliciano, Peter McGuff, who's still kicking around, who's actually the guy who discovered Dorian Yates, Peter McGuff. And I spent a lot of time talking about the sport, about the beauty of it, about the magic of bodybuilding, about what made it so awesome. So I worked with some awesome people and I got to learn and learn and learn. And part of what I did is I actually handled the advertising for supplement companies, Muscle Tech, EAS at the time, VPX, all these guys who are still kicking around owning companies. I actually worked with them. I was actually their rep. From the age of 19 through 24, I was at Weider Publications. And in that time, I worked my way up from simply an account rep to account manager, and then I worked my way up to when American Media bought Weider. Joe Weider, the Weider family, sold Weider Publications to American Media. Now, American Media is the owner of the National Enquirer, the Star, Country Weekly, Mira en Espanol, bunch of other publications. You probably saw them in the news lately for the hush money that David Pecker, CEO, was the CEO at the time, my boss at the time. And he's in the news all over for this Donald Trump thing and the scandal with the porn stars and all that. And let me be real here. David Pecker wasn't the nicest guy. He isn't the nicest guy. Horrible leader in my opinion, but let's be real. He's running $1 billion corporation there. I mean, the guy's a G. Like, a lot to learn from. I didn't like him personally. I still don't. But I respect the hell out of him. Just a very brash and disrespectful, pompous individual in my opinion. But I'll break bread with him any day. I respect the hell out of him as a businessman. And things changed. Like, I was a 22-year-old wannabe hotshot when he took over when I was working there. So who knows? I might like him now. Or he might have been like, who the hell's this kid? Who does he think he is? Bottom line is I was churning numbers. I was able to work my way up to corporate sales, where I was actually handling not only the men's fitness, Muscle Fitness or his Flex magazine, but I was also handling National Enquirer Star. I worked up from dealing with small endemic or industry companies to dealing with Nissan and Nike and Toyota. So I went from being just literally a niche guy to battling against Men's Health, to battling against Men's Journal, Maxim Magazine for ad space. Putting together ad portfolios. At that time, you still see it in the gym. It's at Exports called ClubCom. We actually got into working with ClubCom and launching that. We actually launched ClubCom, which is basically media inside the gym. It's the gym's own personal TV channel. And I remember launching that. So we did a lot of cool things, launched Muscle Fitness Hers, obviously the buyout by American Media. One of the coolest moments of my career at Weider was when we got bought out, and I was called in. The general manager at the time was a gentleman known as Larry Bornstein was his name. He was the largest Jewish man I've ever met. Dude was like 6'4", built like a linebacker. I remember him sitting down, calling me in his office. I brought my laptop and my numbers. He goes, yeah, here's the numbers that, you're hit. You're not even coming close to these. I looked at them. I'm like, Larry, sir, these aren't the numbers. So I got my computer and he's like, oh shit. The books were cooked, man. They got $350 million for Weider Publications. I have no doubt in my mind those books were cooked to the brim. So anyway, they bought in on something that they got the numbers pulled over their eyes, a little bit from what I understood. But that taught me a lot about business right there. I was involved in an acquisition at the young age of 22. But that allowed me, because American Media, Larry called me in the office that day. And he looked me in the eye and he said, Mark, he's like, why are you still here? I thought I was getting fired. In fact, I'd already started lining up other job opportunities. He goes, how are you working for this much money? You're bringing the company this much money. He tripled my salary and gave me a promotion right there on the spot. I went from making 5 figures to double 6 figures in like a minute. It was insane. So anyway, long story short, that was really awesome. I loved working for American Media. I absolutely enjoyed it. I loved the challenge. I loved inner office bullshit. I loved it. Everybody's like, oh, the rat race. Oh, inner office politics. Dude, I thrived on them. I loved playing coworkers against each other. I love the political game. And public speaking is my forte. So you get me in front of a group of people. You guys see me speak, the IRCE, see me speak in Marketing Sherpa. I love speaking. I love talking. I love engaging. I love explaining things. You give me an opportunity to do that, I'm going to shine. And Weider gave me an opportunity to not only utilize my interpersonal, inner office skills, but also gave me an opportunity to harness and grow my ability as a public speaker. I was giving presentations every day, flying out to see large ad agencies, Condé Nast, all these, I'm sorry, that's publication. That kind of messed up. Flying out to see all these large agencies, Covell Fuller and Culver City, and all these guys running big things, Nike, Asics, Adidas, just rocking it, Nissan, Toyota. I was 22 years old, on top of the world, making more money than I knew what I could do with. My wife at the time, she was awesome. She graduated a year early from California Lutheran University, a degree in marketing communication, internship at J.D. Power and Associates. By the age of 23 years old, my wife had been marketing director for 2 multi-million-dollar companies. Katie is a freaking star. She's making good money. I had it at Weider, dude. I was making money. My trajectory was there, but I was top down. My boss at the time, Laya, was amazing at what he did, and he still is. I'm friends to him to this day. Laya's a good friend of mine, amazing guy. You had Darren, you still see him on this channel. He's a biker dude. Darren was tearing up the Midwest, owning that shit. Scardino on the East Coast, he did his job, did it well. He was running shit out there. And at that time, we brought in James Grage, who is currently one of the owners of BPI. Richard Hart, who started, you guys might have seen the No G Bar. Jim Stepani was there. Dude, it is a who's who of who's in this industry right now. We had the greatest team ever assembled in the industry. Everybody who was there went on to do really cool fucking things. Vito Sansone was working on men's fitness. He's the CEO of Complete Nutrition. Crazy. We all sat in the same fucking office. And crazy thing, man. I woke up one morning and I just couldn't look myself in the mirror anymore. Ad sales wasn't for me. And the companies I was dealing with in the industry, I found them to be shady and disingenuous. And I had some CEOs tell me about some shady things they did. Lab tests were going out. The Trioplex bar came back dirty. I just felt like I wanted to make a change. At that time, I was approached by a gentleman by the name of John Arnold. John Arnold, Patrick Arnold, basically the grandfather of pro hormones. Patrick Arnold, ErgoPharm fame, brought metric substrate solutions, just a genius. John, not so much, slimeball. John approached me, we had dinner at the Olympia, and he said, look, we want you to come aboard and start a company with Sylvester Stallone. I'm like, say what? Yeah, Sylvester Stallone. I'm like, fuck, man, I'm a big Rocky fan. Everybody over the age of 30 started training because of Rocky. Yeah, everybody got that shit, right? Eye of the Tiger, like fuck Rocky. I'm sitting there with Katie and I'm like, are you hearing this shit? Anyway, I turned him down that day. But that morning I woke up, I just didn't feel like I was doing it right. And I said, you know what? I'm down. I called John and I'm like, I'm in. So I got hired as, I believe my initial title was VP of Marketing. Anyway, Another guy involved in the company was Vince Andrich. Vince has been around, and he launched the Lean Mass Matrix over at ProLab. He did some shit at Metrics. He was friends with Patrick, and Vince always finds a way to weasel himself into situations where he makes money, and good for him. I respect that about him. So anyway, and I've known Vince for years, So long story short, I took the job, and in that time we had to launch. I've never worked with a board before. I've worked in a large corporation, but Instone was basically owned or financed by a group called Gorse Technology. They are a large investment group that deals mainly in tech, okay? So supplements were new to them, but they expected an initial return. So what we did, we went out, this time we formulated and we flavored. We got the pudding, if you guys remember the intake pudding, intake lean. We had intake, which was the MRP. We had Fitburn? No. Lean Fire, Fitburn, we have Provitem now. Lean Fire, which is a fat burner, and Forza T, which is a test booster. And at that time, we launched, and sales were actually, we had everybody interested, we had Europa, the main distributor at the time, on board. They had Vince, they wanted this big $1 million GNC PO. And anybody can get that. You just got to go in and say, look, I'll do pay on scan, and we'll bring Sly along. And I remember we had a board meeting. I was the only one who stood up and said, this is a horrible idea, guys. You can't push a brand into stores. You need consumer demand first. It's going to take a good 3 to 4 years. We're going to blow our wad. We're going to be out of everything. This company spent money. It was going on style. I'm talking about Morton's. We'd have, I forgot the bill, but dude, you'd have like these big extravagant parties at Morton's. Our company party was at the W Hotel in Beverly Hills. We're throwing down $10,000, $20,000 just to have a fucking company dinner. Burning through cash like it's going out of style. And John had no management skills. Long story short, they didn't like me. I didn't like them either, to be honest. But it kind of came as a shock where 3 months after I was hired, I was demoted to marketing support. Not for any reason, but just because, whatever. At that point, I think Vince kind of turned his back on me, and I've confronted him about that in the future, but I don't care because I'm very, very happy where I'm at now, and I credit Instone, that jump, that risk I took to go from Instone, to go from Weider to Instone is what led to where I'm at now. If Instone wouldn't give me the motivation to get out of my dead-end job, a job I was comfortable with, I was becoming complacent, I would have never been able to do the epic shit I've done since. The intra-workout category we'll go into later. I would have been stuck, and it would have sucked. And I would have still been there. And guess what? Publishing's dead. They're trying to go online now, right? I got out at the right time, and I credit that. So I'm actually very thankful to John and Vince for bringing me on board Instone. I'm thankful for them for being such jerks. Because if it wasn't for them being assholes, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. And frankly, why would I hate anybody at this point in my life? My life is awesome. So anyway, long story short, John calls me in his office one day. And this after I got demoted from VP of Marketing to Marketing Support, right? And at that point, when John demoted me, he said, well, we're getting complaints about you. So I did what I called. I called Europa. I called Eric. I'm like, dude, guys, did I do something wrong? Because if so, I want to correct it. I want to apologize. Like, no, Mark, we love you. We've known you since you were at Weider. You're a great guy. So I went in there knowing that, and John came in, and he's like, yeah, you know what? I'm like, John, I got to ask you something. Because I knew I was getting fired. Funny story, I actually lived in Sylmar, and I had to drive to Irvine twice a week for this job. We had a satellite office. We had too much. Again, these guys spent money. Like, they were stupid. Like, John was stupid, like, very stupid. Did I mention John was stupid? So anyway, so we had an office in Woodland Hills we were wasting money on. We had an office in Irvine by the university in Tech Park. And so I drove down there, and I wore a shirt and tie. Because I said, I know I'm getting fired today. I'm going out in style. So anyway, I walk in there with the knowledge that nobody talked shit about me. Nobody had an issue with what I was doing. Nobody cared. They actually kind of liked me. Now everybody hates me, especially John, after I called him stupid 14 times in this video. And if John's watching this, John, I still think you're stupid, but I don't hate you. And I do hate you, but not enough to punch you, because I don't want you to sue me. So anyway, long story short, John calls me and I go, John, dude, like, who was talking trash? I talked to Eric. I talked to these other guys. He's like, oh, nah, he said, that nobody's talking trash. No, nobody said they don't like you. I just don't like you. He literally fucking said that, and I'm like, at least he's honest. At that point, he's like, we're going to have to let you go. You're not a good representation of the company, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, cool, peace, you know? And so then I went in and met with their CFO. His name was Mervyn. He was a South African. He was a white guy from South Africa, which is, for me at the time, I'm like, wow, he's an African-American. Anyway, that's besides the point. Anyway, Mervyn's like, you're going to be fired and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I got my paperwork, whatever, and I walked out. And that was it. And I've never felt like such a failure in my life because at that point, my wife was providing for us. My wife was making plenty of money to provide for both of us. We had a very affordable house. We had no car payments really other than a couple small car payments. We were still driving really cheap cars. We were always good at saving. I felt like a failure. And, so immediately I went into what I should do. I actually went in and looked at being a police officer. I thought I wanted to serve. And I still would love to be a police officer. I think it's too late in my life. But my wife's family are cops, and she really did not like that. So then I looked into publishing again. I actually got some good offers, really good offers, 6 figures plus to go and do the publishing thing again. And I really was like, well, this might actually work out. I had great references, and I don't know, man. We had money. I could have been Katie could have been my sugar mama at the time, right? So I'm like, you know what? Why don't we take a risk? I don't like where the sport nutrition industry is going. And at that time, as you guys know, I had a vindictive mindset, a vendetta. I just wanted to help people. I wanted to fix everything. I wanted to have transparent formulas because everything was proprietary blends at the time. I wanted to lab test everything. I wanted to create epic stuff. And at that time, working at Weider with the science guys and at Instone, by the age of 24, I'd already amassed over 5 years of experience in the supplement game, in formulating and flavoring. I visited places. I did research. I talked to everyone I could. I used to, God rest his soul, but I used to, every time I was in town, because I traveled a lot, I used to take Dr. Jim Wright, spend $100, take him to Morton's, buy him some martinis, and I'd eat lunch. Cost me $100 every time we went out. There was a Morton's right by Weider. And I just listened. I listened to everything he said. I absorbed it like a sponge. So by the time I graduated from Weider University, by the time I failed at Instone, I learned so much. I read every marketing book I could read. I read every business book I could read. I learned about every distributor in the industry. I learned about every retail chain. I learned about every, at the time, internet site. I learned everything I could. So I sat down with Katie and I'm like, I think we should give this a go. So, long story short, I called some friends. And one of them was Mike McCandless. And he owned, at the time, a place called onefast400.com and bulknutrition.com. I said, hey, Mike, I have an idea to start a supplement company. And Mike was like, let's do it. So I got on a plane to North Carolina and we flew out. I flew out. At the time, it was Mike, his uncle, Howard Stewart, and myself. We sat at Mike's mom's kitchen table, and that is where we came up with the concept for Scivation, at Mike's mom's kitchen table. And before I end this video, because I'll start from this point, next video, we're at 20 minutes in. I'd like to say that a lot of stuff happened between Mike and myself. And it's because we're both very aggressive and very passionate individuals. But I'll tell you what, I credit Mike McCandless for a lot of my success, for a lot of where I am in life, because Mike showed me a lot about business. Mike was a numbers guy. He knew a lot about numbers. He taught me that. He always said, numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. And Mike can be a brash and abrasive individual, but Mike doesn't hide that. And also, I'd like to say that Mike's mom, was probably the nicest woman in the world. And we all lost her to cancer just a few years ago. And I saw Mike at the Arnold in Australia. And we just caught up. And I was able to say, I'm sorry for your loss. I don't know if he remembers this. But, you know, a lot of things happen. And after, you know, Scivation sale, we had our, I'm not going to bring up any of this in specifics, but we had our conflicts, as a lot of times happen in business. But for the record, a lot of people say a lot of things about me. A lot of people say a lot of things about Mike. And I'll say this, I don't know if Mike agrees with me, but if it wasn't for Mike McCandless and myself getting together in 2004, the intra-workout category would not be here, at least not what it is today. And I would not be where I'm at, and Mike wouldn't be where he's at. So I owe a debt of gratitude to Mike and his Uncle Howard for believing in what we all, the vision we all had. And I also believe that Mike, myself, and Howard brought credibility to the industry. I believe we brought the end of the proprietary blend. We put it out there. On Extend, we listed every ingredient. We even had a product. Just Be Natural was the name of the company. I think they're still around in Florida, I think, or New York. They literally called a product Extend and knocked us off. We had Dymatize come out with Recoup and literally copy our label word for word because we didn't put it in a hidden proprietary blend. But Mike, myself, and Howard believed it was the consumer's right to know what they're taking. And remember, Mike, even before we worked together, owned labelclaimstesting.com and was the one who tested the Trioplex bars and outed them for being a lie. So I don't know what Mike's become now. I haven't worked with him in 8 years, 9 years. And we're on good terms. I wouldn't say we're going to be at Thanksgiving dinner together. We're on amicable terms right now. We weren't always. He hated me, I'm sure. I wasn't too fond of him. But Mike and me are almost 40 years old now. I think Mike is 40. Like, Mike's 39 or 40. Like, God. I mean, I consider that man still to this day as instrumental in me being who I am today as anybody except my wife. And, yeah, I'd like to say, you know, I don't think I've ever said that, you know, just really owe that man a debt of gratitude for who I am and what I've become. And I wish we could have ended it on better terms, but we're still only 40 years old. You know, we're not even 40. I'm 40. Well, he might, I don't remember his age. I know he's like a year or two off from me, but it's not too late. It's not too late. There's definitely nothing but respect from me, at least at this point. I went through a couple years of my life where I was lost and I had a lot of anger and resentment and I wasn't a good person. And a lot of that is when our shit went down, and I would have handled it better if I was the man I am today. But it's never too late to say you're sorry. So, long story short, next time we'll pick up from the dinner table at Mike's parents' house. We'll move on. We'll see how far we get, and then come into MTS and Tiger. Anyway, guys, this is when it gets fun. This is when we actually start making some real money. All right, guys, I'm Marc Lobliner. Thanks for watching, and that's not a game.